The planet's surface was cold and dry, full of red dust and broken stones. Dylan adjusted his helmet as wind pushed against him. Beside him stood Commander Zirin, his tall frame unmoving, his four dark eyes scanning the hills ahead. They had fought together for 6 years, human and Valari, soldier and commander. But more than that, they were friends. The mission was supposed to be simple: search and rescue. A research team had gone missing near the cliffs of Orc Ridge. But nothing was ever simple in war zones, especially not on this side of the galaxy. Dylan checked his pulse rifle. You really think the Drask are behind this? He asked. Xer nodded slowly. Their scent is in the air. I don't trust what we cannot see. They moved forward, step by step, past old mining machines and broken shuttle parts. Silence followed them like a shadow. Even the wind had gone quiet. Suddenly, a sharp flash came from the hilltop. An explosion rocked the ground. Dylan and Zirin fell back behind cover as plasma shots hit nearby rocks. Ambush, Dylan shouted. Zirin was already up, returning fire with precision. They fought side by side, like they had many times before. But this time was different. The enemy was prepared. A group of Drask soldiers appeared, firing from higher ground. One of them carried a heavy cannon. It charged with a loud hum. Xer and stood tall, drawing the enemy's fire away from Dylan. He shouted in his own language, a battle cry that echoed across the canyon. Then the cannon fired. The blast hit the rocks behind Zirin. The shockwave knocked both of them down again. When Dylan looked up, he saw Zirin lying on the ground, his armor cracked, blood leaking from his side. No, hold on. Dylan crawled toward him. Xer and grabbed his arm. Listen, there's something I must say, he said, his voice low and rough. Save your strength. We'll call for medevac. No time. Zirin pressed a small data chip into Dylan's hand. If I fall, go to my home. Find Lena. Protect her. Lena, your wife? Dylan asked, confused. Zirin nodded. I trust you more than anyone. She will need someone. You are that someone. Before Dylan could answer, Zirin lost consciousness. Dylan fought back the panic. He grabbed a med pack from his belt and began sealing the wounds. The battle around them faded as reinforcements arrived. Drask forces pulled back. Human and Valari medics landed nearby, rushing to help. But it was too late. Xer in single quotes as Hart had stopped by the time they reached the field hospital. Dylan sat beside his body in silence. He didn't speak. He didn't cry. He just stared at the chip in his hand. A final request from a friend who had trusted him with everything. 3 weeks passed. The funeral took place on the Valari homeworld. Tall towers of silver rose into the clouds. Glowing banners flew across the skies. Zirin's body was placed in a crystal chamber and floated down the great river of remembrance. As was tradition among his people. Dylan stood at the edge of the river, the only human among hundreds of Valari. He had come to honor Zirin's final journey. But more than that, he had come to deliver the message later that day. In a quiet room filled with soft lights and warm air, Dylan sat in front of a woman with long white hair and deep violet eyes. She wore a silver robe, her expression calm, but sad. You are Dylan, she said. He nodded. Yes, ma'am. I serve under your husband. He gave me this. He placed the chip on the table. She looked at it, but didn't reach for it. I've heard of you. He spoke of you often. Said you had a wild spirit, but a loyal heart. I don't know why he chose me, Dylan said softly, but he wanted me to make sure you were okay. Lena finally took the chip and slid it into a small reader. A soft hologram appeared, showing Zirin's face. He looked strong, even in the image, but his voice was tired. Lena, the hologram said, if you're hearing this, then I have fallen. You know how much I love you. But there is something more. I ask you to trust Dylan. He is not just a soldier. He is my brother in arms. Let him stand with you. Let him carry some of your pain. The message ended. Lena didn't speak for a long time. Finally, she said, he trusted you with his final wish. That means something. She looked out the window at the river. Stay here, human, for now. Dylan didn't know what to say. But in that moment, He knew the promise he had made wasn't just words. It was a path he had to walk now. For Xiran. For Lena. For the memory of a bond that went beyond war. Beyond species, something rare and real. Days passed slowly on the Valari homeworld. The skies were always soft purple, and the nights were quiet. Dylan stayed in a guest room near Lena's home. It was small but clean, with a view of tall blue trees and silver towers in the distance. He didn't explore much. Most of the time, he sat by the window, thinking. He still remembered Zaren's voice in the message, the way he called Dylan brother. The weight of that word had grown heavier each day. Lena didn't speak to him much. She stayed busy with ceremonies and family visits. Everyone came to pay respect to Zaren. The house was filled with quiet conversations and sad music. Dylan didn't understand all the customs, but he tried to be respectful. One morning, as he was pouring water into a plant near the entrance, Lena walked up behind him. "You're not used to silence, are you?" she asked. He turned to face her. "No, ma'am. I guess I'm more used to shouting, engines, and gunfire." She smiled just a little. "Then you must feel lost here." "A bit," he admitted. "But I made a promise." Lena looked down. "I know. I've read the message many times." They sat together under a tall vine-covered tree. For a moment, they didn't speak, just sat in the shade. "How did he die?" Lena finally asked. Dylan hesitated. "He saved me. We were under attack. He drew their fire to protect me." That's the kind of person he was. Lena's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't let them fall. He always believed in loyalty above all. Dylan looked away. "I didn't know he had recorded that message, or that he'd asked me to stay." "I didn't expect it either," she whispered. "But if he trusted you, then I will try." The next few days became more routine. Dylan helped clean the garden, carried supplies, and even joined Lena during a visit to the memory temple, where Zaren's name had been carved into the crystal wall of heroes. She explained each custom to him gently, and he listened with care. Sometimes she would tell a short story about Zaren, how he made strange human jokes at home, or how he burned food trying to learn Earth recipes. Dylan laughed, though it hurt. A little too. "He made pancakes once," Lena said with a faint smile. "They were so thick I could have used them as shoes." "Sounds like him." Dylan chuckled. The wall between them slowly began to fade. One evening, while Lena prepared a traditional meal, Dylan sat nearby reading a digital guide on Valari customs. "You don't have to do all this," Lena said, noticing the guide. "You're not one of us." "I know," he replied. "But I'm a guest. I want to show respect." She nodded. "You've already shown more respect than most council members." Dylan tilted his head. "What do you mean?" Lena paused, then sat across from him. "The High Council doesn't trust humans. They believe you're here for political reasons." "That's not true," Dylan said quickly. "I know. But in their eyes, everything has a price, and trust is rare. I didn't come here for power. I came because Zaren asked me to. That's all." She stared at him for a long moment, then said softly, "And that's why I believe you?" The next day, Lena received a summons from the council. She was to attend a remembrance ceremony at the Capitol. She asked Dylan to join her, which surprised him. "Are you sure?" he asked. "You stood with him in battle. You have the right to stand with me now," she answered. They took a shuttle to the Grand City. It was full of floating platforms, glowing bridges, and giant pillars shaped like ancient swords. Many eyes followed Dylan as he walked beside Lena, some curious, some cold. At the Hall of Echoes, Lena stepped forward to speak. The council sat in a circle of light, watching silently. "My husband was a hero," she began, "but he also believed in unity. He did not just fight for Valari. He fought beside humans. He gave his life for one." She looked at Dylan. "And he asked that I trust this man, not for war, but for peace and for healing." Some council members whispered among themselves. Others frowned. One old Valari elder stood. "You are wise, Lena. But are you sure this human deserves such faith?" Before she could speak, Dylan stepped forward. "I don't want your power. I don't want land or title. I just want to keep a promise. To a friend, to a brother, Silence followed. Then, slowly, the elder nodded. We shall see. On the flight back, Lena sat quietly. Dylan stared out the window. That was risky. She said at last. Maybe, he replied. But I meant every word. She smiled gently. So did he? When he trusted you? Dylan looked at her. I'll keep earning that trust every day. And for the first time, she believed him. After the council meeting, things changed. Some neighbors greeted Dylan politely. Others still avoided him. But Lena was different now. She no longer kept the distance. She would talk more, ask questions about Earth, and even laugh at his strange stories. One morning, Lena and Dylan went to the market. It was full of floating carts, glowing fruit, and long, colorful cloths waving in the wind. Dylan looked around, amazed. He had never seen such a place. You've never been to a Valari market before? Lena asked, handing him a soft round. Fruit. No. Closest I've been is the base cafeteria, he replied. She laughed. Try that. It's sweet. He bit into the fruit and blinked. That's actually good. As they walked, two young Valari children ran past, nearly knocking over a cart. The vendor yelled, and one of the children bumped into Dylan's leg. The boy froze, looking up at him in fear. Dylan knelt and smiled. You okay, kid? The child slowly nodded, then ran away. Lena watched silently. They've only seen humans in news reports or war stories. They don't know who you are. I don't blame them, Dylan said. Humans aren't perfect. No one is, Lena replied. That night, Lena showed Dylan the memory room, a sacred place in Valari homes. It held small crystal shells, each with a glowing orb. Zirin's orb was in the center. When touched, it played a moment from his life. Lena placed her hand on the orb. A soft light filled the room. Zirin appeared in a memory, laughing as he tried to cook. Dylan saw himself in the background, yelling at him not to burn the food. Again, he saved this memory? Dylan asked, surprised. Yes. He said it reminded him that peace was possible. Even in the middle of war, Lena said softly. They sat together in silence for a while, you know? She began, when I first met Zirin, he was quiet, always serious. But after serving with humans, something changed. He smiled more. He believed more. Dylan looked at the glowing orb. He made me a better man. And you gave him hope, she said, even if you didn't know it. The next day, Dylan woke early and stepped outside. The air was cool, and mist floated over the grass. He saw a figure standing near the gate. It was a Valari man in dark armor. You are Dylan? The man asked. Yes, Dylan replied, stepping forward. I bring a warning. Not all on the council support you. Some want you gone. They say your presence brings unrest. And you? Dylan asked. I served under Commander Zirin once, the man said. I trust his judgment, but be careful. Others don't. The man walked away before Dylan could ask more. Later, Dylan told Lena what had happened. I fear this might happen, she said. They think you'll influence me, change our traditions. I don't want to change anything, Dylan said. I just want to help. Then stay, she said firmly. Don't let them scare you. A week later, a public event was held in the city square to honor fallen heroes. Lena was asked to speak. She invited Dylan to stand beside her. Many watched closely as she stepped forward. My husband was a warrior, she said, but he was also a man of peace. He believed in the strength of bonds, even between different worlds, and he trusted this human not just in war, but in his final wish. She looked around the crowd. Some say Dylan doesn't belong, that he is here for power. But I have seen his heart, and I know the truth. Some Valari in the crowd bowed their heads. Others turned away. Dylan kept his eyes forward. That night, back at home, Dylan stood on the balcony, looking up at the stars. Lena joined him, holding two cups of warm leaf tea. You did well today, Dylan said. Thank you, she replied. I meant every word. They sipped the tea in silence. Do you ever wonder what Zirin would think if he saw us now? Dylan asked. Yes, she said. But I think he'd be proud. He looked at her. I hope so. He didn't ask you to replace him, she said gently. He just asked you to be here. And you are. I'll keep being here, Dylan said. As long as you need me. Lena gave a small nod. Then we walked this path together, after the public event. Dylan noticed more people watching him wherever he went. Some gave polite nods, others stared in silence. A few still whispered behind his back. Even though Lena had defended him, not everyone agreed with her. Still, Dylan remained calm. Every day he helped with repairs around Lena's home, visited the market, and sometimes walked with her through the quiet gardens near the river. They spoke often about the war, about Zirin, and sometimes about Earth. I always wanted to see Earth's oceans, Lena said one morning, her eyes soft as they walked along a stone path. You would love it, Dylan replied. Blue waves, warm sand, and the sound of seagulls in the sky. What's a seagull? She asked, smiling. Noisy bird that steals food. He laughed. Lena chuckled. It was the first time Dylan had heard a real laugh from her. He didn't say anything, but inside, he felt something warm. But peace never lasted long. One night, Lena was called to a private council meeting. She returned late, her face pale and her steps slow. What happened? Dylan asked as she walked in. They gave me a choice, she said quietly. Accept a seat on the High Council or give up your presence in this house. Dylan stood still. They're forcing you to choose. They say you're a distraction. That I've become weak because of your influence, she said, her voice shaking. Then I'll leave, Dylan said without hesitation. You've worked hard to earn their respect. I won't stand in your way. Lena turned sharply. No, Zirin didn't bring you into my life for me to throw you out when things get hard. But no, she repeated, you're here because of trust, not politics. If they can't see that, then maybe they don't deserve my loyalty. Dylan looked at her, surprised. What will you do? I don't know yet, she whispered. But I won't betray his final wish. The next day, Lena asked Dylan to come with her to the Hall of Voices, where old records and personal messages were kept. She carried a small crystal in her hand, Zirin's private memory archive. Inside the hall, they placed the crystal on a pedestal. A projection lit up, showing Zirin in armor, standing tall. This message is for the council. Zirin's voice said, and for my people, if I have fallen. Know this, I chose Dylan not because he is human, but because he is true. He saved my life, just as I saved his. He honors his word, even when it costs him. The projection paused, then continued. I trust him not only with my battles, but with my heart, with Lena. Not to take my place, but to stand with her when I know. Longer can anyone who questions that does not know me. The message ended. The room was silent. Lena turned to Dylan. We'll show them this at the next meeting. The High Council gathered again in the crystal chamber. This time, Dylan stood beside Lena without hesitation. She stepped forward and activated the message. As Zirin's words echoed through the chamber, the council members sat quietly, some shifting uncomfortably in their seats. When it ended, Lena spoke. This was his voice, his truth, and yet you question it. I do not accept your offer if it means abandoning his final wish. An elder counselor stood. You are strong, Lady Lena, but this is not how we do things. Then maybe it's time things change, she replied. Another counselor raised a hand. Perhaps we should listen. If Commander Zirin believed in this human, maybe we should too. A few heads nodded slowly, others still frowned. The council decided to delay the vote. No seat, no exile, just silence for now. As they walked back home, Dylan spoke quietly. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did, Lena said, because he trusted you, and so do I. I don't know if I deserve it, Dylan admitted. Maybe not, but you've earned it more than anyone else. They walked in silence. For a while, the wind was soft, and stars began to appear above them. Lena stopped near the river, where flowers glowed gently in the dark. This place used to feel empty, she said. Now it feels like someone is listening again. Dylan smiled. Maybe he is. The days after the council meeting felt calm, but it was not true peace. Dylan could feel the tension in the air. Some Valari looked at him differently now, not with fear or hate, but with careful eyes. as if they were waiting to see his next move. Even the house felt quieter, like it was holding its breath. Lena stayed busy. She received messages every day from elders, citizens, and old friends. Some praised her words. Others warned her to stay silent. She didn't answer them all. Instead, she spent more time in the garden or watching the river flow outside the window. One morning, Dylan stepped outside to repair a broken water pipe behind the house. He liked simple work. It helped him think. As he fixed the last valve, he heard a soft voice behind him. "You work more than most of our builders," Lena said with a small smile. "Well, back on Earth, if you didn't fix it yourself, it stayed broken," Dylan replied, wiping his hands. She sat on a stone nearby. "It's strange. When you first arrived, I didn't think we'd ever speak like this. I didn't think I'd stay this long," he said. "Do you miss your home?" Dylan thought for a moment. "Yes, but this place has changed me. Your people, your ways, even your silence, it's all so different from what I knew. And yet you stayed." She said, "Because I made a promise." He answered. She looked at him with soft eyes. "And maybe because you care." He didn't respond right away. Instead, he picked up his tools and nodded. Maybe both. Later that evening, as the sky turned golden, a visitor arrived at the gate. A young Valari officer in black armor asked to speak with Dylan alone. Lena stayed inside while Dylan stepped out. The officer bowed lightly. "I bring word from Captain Orion of the Outer Watch. He says the border is unstable. Strange signals from unknown ships. He's calling for all experienced veterans." Dylan stayed quiet. "You don't have to answer," the officer added. "You're not part of the force anymore. But the captain remembers your skills." After the officer left, Dylan stood still for a long time. When he walked back in, Lena looked up. "Trouble, a call for help," he said. "There's a border breach, unknown ships. They want me to assist." "You'll go," she said calmly. "I don't want to leave you alone," Dylan replied. "I'm not alone," she said. "You'll come back." "You don't know that." "No," she whispered. "But I believe it." The next morning, Dylan packed his gear. Simple armor, old weapons, nothing shiny, but everything well used. Lena came to see him off at the shuttle pad. The sky was cloudy, wind brushing her long robe. "You're not saying goodbye," she told him. "No." He said, "I'm saying see you soon." She handed him a small silver pendant. This belonged to Zirin. He wore it in every battle. "Now it's yours." Dylan held it in his hand. "Thank you. Come back in one piece, human," she said. "I'll try, Valari," he replied with a smile. The shuttle rose into the sky, leaving a trail of light. Lena watched until it vanished behind the clouds. At the border, Dylan joined Captain Orion's team. He was older now, not as fast as before, but his mind was sharp. He noticed things others missed. The enemy wasn't attacking yet, but they were watching. For 3 days, he trained young Valari soldiers, taught them human tactics, and helped set up defenses. But he missed Lena's calm voice. He missed the quiet river. He missed the feeling of peace. On the 4th night, the enemy made their move. Small fighter ships attacked the outpost. Dylan led a group to intercept. During the battle, he spotted a strange weapon on one of the ships, something powerful, aimed directly at the heart of the base. Without thinking, Dylan jumped onto a turret and fired nonstop. He drew the enemy's attention, just like Zirin once did for him. The skies lit up with fire. The weapon was destroyed, but Dylan's ship was hit. The last thing he saw was smoke, then darkness. He woke up 3 days later in a medical unit. His side burned, his arm was wrapped in synth skin, and his head throbbed. Captain Orion stood beside him. "You saved the base," Orion said. "Again." "Great," Dylan groaned. "I was hoping to do something less painful this time." "Lena has sent messages every day," the captain added. "She's waiting." "Then don't make her wait anymore," Dylan said with a weak smile. A week later, the shuttle returned to the Valari homeworld. Lena stood at the pad again, her eyes searching the sky. When the shuttle landed and Dylan stepped out, bruised and tired but standing, she didn't speak. She walked straight to him and gently placed her hand on his shoulder. "You came back," she said. "I said I would." They walked home together under the stars. Years passed quietly on the Valari homeworld. Dylan stayed close to Lena, not as a soldier or a stranger, but as family. The promise he made to Zarin became the foundation of a new bond, not just between two people, but between two worlds. Lena rose to lead a council dedicated to unity and peace. Her voice was strong, but kind. She spoke for those who wanted change, who believed that trust could cross any barrier even between very different beings. Dylan became a peacekeeper, traveling to border worlds where conflicts sometimes threatened to break out. He carried Zarin's pendant on his neck, a symbol of the trust that started it all. One afternoon, as Lena walked through the city gardens, a group of children gathered around a statue near the river. It was a sculpture of Zarin standing tall. With Dylan beside him, the children looked up at the shining metal, their eyes wide with wonder. "Who is the human with him?" a small girl asked her mother. "That is Dylan," her mother replied. "The man Zarin trusted with everything," the children whispered among themselves, imagining the stories behind the statue. Lena smiled as she watched them. She knew those stories were still growing, still alive. One evening, Dylan and Lena sat beneath the stars, much like they had years ago. The river flowed softly nearby, carrying memories of the past and hopes for the future. "Do you think Zarin would be proud of us?" Dylan asked. Lena reached out and took his hand. "He's proud every day, because we honored his trust, and because we made something new from it." Dylan squeezed her hand gently. "This promise, it changed everything." "It did," she said, "and it will keep changing, as long as we remember what trust really means." They sat together in quiet peace, the stars shining like the memories they carried, bright, endless, and true. The story of Dylan and Lena became a legend across many worlds, a story about trust, honor, and the power of promises kept. It showed that even in times of war and loss, connection and hope could grow. And for Dylan, it was never just about the promise to a friend. It was about the family they built together. Dylan walked through the gates of Lena's home, still a little stiff from the injury. His arm was healing, but his ribs ached with every breath. Still, he was smiling. He had kept his promise once again. Lena guided him inside, her steps quiet but full of care. She didn't speak much. She didn't need to. The way she helped him sit down, the way she placed a warm cup of tea in his hand, those things said enough. "You lost weight," she said gently. "Military food is worse than war," Dylan joked. She gave a soft smile. "I'm glad you came back." "Me too." They sat in silence for a while. The room was peaceful, filled with the sound of the river outside and the soft hum of wind chimes. The sunlight fell across the floor in golden lines. "The border is quiet again," Dylan said. "For now." "And you?" Lena asked. "Not so quiet inside," he admitted. She looked at him. "You're still caring too much." "Maybe," he said. "Sometimes I think about Zarin more when I'm here than I ever did in the war. Because here, you're not fighting. You're remembering." Dylan nodded. He'd laugh if he saw me trying to tend a garden or learning your customs. But he would also be proud, she said. Days passed slowly. Dylan rested and helped, with small things, watering plants, fixing the old heater, preparing food the Valari way. Lena taught him new words in her language, sometimes. They read old books together or visited the market in silence. Each day, they grew closer, not out of need, but out of understanding. One evening, Dylan walked into the memory room and placed his hand on Zarin's orb. The light filled the room, showing a moment from training camp long ago. Zarin stood with his arms crossed, watching Dylan fall during a drill. Then Zarin helped him up and said, again. Lena stood behind him. "He never gave up on anyone. Not even me," Dylan said. "He gave you his trust. Now you've honored that more than anyone ever expected." Dylan looked at her. "Have I really?" "Yes," she said without doubt. "More than once." One morning, a message came from the council. They invited Lena to speak again. This time, it was not about power or politics. It was a request. "They want me to represent both our worlds at the Unity Gathering next month," she said, showing Dylan the message. "You should go," he said. "I want you with me," she replied. Are you sure? Yes, she said. Not just as a guest, as someone they must finally see, not as a soldier or outsider, but as someone who kept a promise. Dylan felt a heavy silence in the room. Not fear, not doubt, but the feeling of something important taking shape. Then, I'll go, he said. The gathering was held on a distant planet covered in glowing forests and floating towers. Leaders from dozens of species stood under crystal lights and spoke of peace, trust, and new futures. When Lena stood to speak, the crowd grew quiet. I come not only as a widow, but as a daughter of two legacies, she began. My husband was Valari, a warrior, a leader, and the one he trusted most in his final moments was human. She looked toward Dylan, who stood silently near the edge of the stage. Dylan came not for reward, not for title. He came because of a promise. He helped me heal. He helped our people understand. And he showed that honor does not end with death. It lives through those who carry it forward. The crowd was still. Then slowly, some stood. Not all, but enough to begin a ripple of change. After the gathering, Dylan and Lena returned home. The skies felt wider. The world felt quieter. But inside both of them, something had shifted. That night, they sat under the stars, wrapped in blankets, listening to the wind pass through the trees. You did something brave, Dylan said. You helped me do it, Lena replied. I never thought I'd come this far, he said. I thought I was just here to deliver a message, to keep a promise, then leave. And yet, you stayed, she said softly. He looked at her. And I'll stay as long as I'm welcome. Lena turned to him. You're not just welcome, you're needed. Dylan didn't answer. He didn't need to. They sat together beneath the stars to hearts from different worlds, joined by the words of a man who had seen something in both of them.